Do you know what? As F1 fans, we get sucked into this every single time, where you genuinely think that a particular team and driver pairing are inseparable and they'll be together forever and ever and ever. Especially when times are good. Remember when Mercedes were cleaning up wins and championships years ago? The impression was that Lewis and Toto were going on caravan holidays together and getting into all sorts of hilarious jams. And this was a combo that would last well into retirement, with Lewis almost certain to sign some sort of legacy deal at Mercedes. Then there's a couple of bad seasons, car isn't where it needs to be despite numerous promises of a breakthrough and developments, and it all just falls flat. And then one day, boom, Hamilton signs for one of your biggest competitors, Ferrari. And it's just fascinating to see all the goodwill, all those slogans, all those smiles melt away. And as a fan, you're hit hard with the reminder that this is simply just an employee-employer relationship. And exactly the same with Carlos Sainz. After taking a bit of time to find a team he could really call home, a real bedrock, it seemed like he did at Ferrari, and his long-term future seemed certain, and signing the contract was simply just a formality. And then suddenly, he's replaced for 2025, and in the same manner as Hamilton, the warmth, togetherness, the bond that he had with the team shuts down overnight. And it's intriguing not only when this happens, but also to look at the declining relationship that you find between the team and the driver, especially when the driver is effectively serving out his notice and just fulfilling his contract. And then you may find situations where the team is somewhat prioritizing his teammates, which we've definitely seen before, and the signs show that this may be happening now. So let's dive straight in and look at when the team and the driver disconnects. But before we do, please don't forget to click that little subscribe button below. The channel's almost at 5,000 subscribers now, and with your help, we can get there, and it really helps the channel. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, just before the rot starts. A move is announced, which means that the driver is now leaving his team, or due to a knock-on effect in the driver market, a driver now has to look for a new seat because he's been replaced. And then there's an official announcement from the team, which you might find on things like social media, and some statements also from the drivers and the team principals who are involved. From the teams, it's normally something along the lines of, "We have been fortunate to work with X for X many years. We are still battling for X place in the championship, and X still plays a valuable part in us achieving that," etc, etc, etc. Which basically means that the driver is leaving us, which we're still pretty annoyed about, but by telling you he's still important will make the inevitable breakup less bad, and one that he will hopefully regret. And then from a driver, you'll hear something like, "I've been very fortunate to work with X team, but after achieving all my goals here, I look forward to a new challenge and want to reaffirm my commitment to the team until the end of the year," which in real world translates to, "I can't wait to get out of here and I'm being forced to fulfill my contract until the end of the year. Look forward to beating you next season." And so straight away, the knives come out from each party. And the tiniest little error or failure, the smallest little misquote, anything is taken not as a straight up mistake made with all the best intentions, like you have with a driver and team tied together with a long-term contract. It's seen almost as an act of sabotage, as if you're hurting me now so I'll be less of a threat next season. And this goes both ways. A driver might be wondering, why all of a sudden is my teammate consistently faster and getting the priority as well when it comes to strategies? And then flipping it around, a team might be wondering, why has our driver lost the edge? Why are they not willing to push themselves further? Why are they getting knocked out in Q2? Why are they not fulfilling a very capable car? And then the blame game begins. And this can really start to creep out during team radio in a race, especially if things aren't going according to plan. And team radio, I sense, gives a great indication into how the relationship between the team and the driver is really going, because it's raw, it's adrenaline fueled, it's not scripted, and it's had no briefing whatsoever. It's like each party is saying what is exactly in their head in the moment. And you do see this from time to time. You see when drivers are complaining to their pits where they put across that kind of manner that, "I was right and you were wrong." Now, of course, neither party will ever admit to be part of any sort of wrongdoing, especially to the other. The team will never admit to favouring the driver which is staying at the team longer, and the driver will never admit to prioritising next season and totally losing focus on the season in hand. And because of this, you arrive at the situation where the driver and the team start to get suspicious of each other, and this is when the decline truly starts. Because all the right and positive things are being said, whether that's in interviews, meetings, private conversations behind closed doors, But the killer part is that the actual actions appear to be the opposite. But the question is here, who is in the right? Who is being screwed the most, the team or the driver? Well, it's very difficult to say, but in situations like this, from my perspective, I've always tended to swing more into the favour of the team. Unless, of course, it's clear that the team are engaged in some serious tomfoolery, which we have seen many times before in a wide variety of situations. Now, for the driver, he looks out for number one. His main responsibilities are to build himself a successful career as a driver and earn as much money as possible in the process. And meanwhile, for a team principal, well, he is responsible for literally thousands of other people and things, all of which could be potentially harmed if the driver leaving was prioritized right until the end. If he has to leave the outgoing driver out in the cold so they don't take things like data, team secrets, and information with them, then so be it. Happens in many walks of life. This is why you have things like gardening leave. This is why Adrian Newey is leaving Red Bull in the first quarter of next season and won't be able to join a team until significantly after, if that's what he decides to do. And surely taking things like secrets, data, generally confidential information over to another team can be potentially devastating. Not that Ferrari will have a huge amount to learn given Mercedes' recent performance when Hamilton arrives, but there could be information about 2026 and the regulation changes that they won't want to leave Brackley. And I wouldn't be surprised now if Lewis isn't involved in certain meetings, decision makings, briefings, anything basically concerning issues post 2024. He won't be included in any of that stuff, and from what we've seen from Hamilton and his tendencies to do, might lead him to have a little sulk. Carlos Sainz doesn't exactly seem to be jumping for joy at Ferrari right now for more or less the same reasons. But you can probably throw one more little extra feeling in there as well, and it's that he feels that he has been forced out of Ferrari unjustly. It's not like he's been strolling it into the barriers or other cars or Oconing it into his teammates or anything like that. This guy has been winning races for Ferrari and scoring podiums, and in some situations outperforming their golden boy Charles Leclerc. But none of this matters because Ferrari saw a window to bring in one of the biggest names to F1, make a ton of money in the process, and they pulled it off. As we said, Charles Leclerc is their chosen one. He's got the long-term contract, so unfortunately Sainz had to take the hit. He had to be the fall guy here. But in the here and now, he has to find another drive. And not only is he a very capable race-winning driver, he also comes with a lot of data and a lot of insights and general information about things at Ferrari which could be valuable to other teams. Now, I'd imagine Ferrari have very much limited the knowledge tap to Sainz and not really giving him that much more than he needs to know, but what he does know right now could be very valuable to teams like Williams or Sauber, for example. But given where Ferrari are in the constructors, they probably can't afford to cut off Sainz in the way that Mercedes might be doing with Hamilton, for example. Because right now, the Constructors' Championship still seems to be wide open. Ferrari simply needs to give each driver the most they absolutely can so that they can bump Red Bull off first place. Now, weirdly, for some reason, all this drama and all this going on that we find between team and driver only appears to happen at the sharp end of the grid. And I say this because Nico Hülkenberg announced that he was leaving Haas for Sauber at the end of the season, but we haven't seen any sort of disconnection or drama like we've sort of seen between Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. But this could be for a number of reasons. One could be simply down to Hulk's character. He could be more grounded and living in the real world than the others, and he knows that it just kind of comes with the territory. He's generally had no sort of special treatment throughout his career, and he probably doesn't really expect it to start now. Two is that these teams are just lower down the order and therefore aren't given the same publicity. It could very well be going on, but because where the teams are in the standings, it just isn't reported that widely. Third, though, is probably the most likely, and it is that the only team secrets that Hulk could take to Sauber from Haas is just what colour the car is going to be painted next season. And then finally, we get to the last stage, where the driver begins to get over and accept that the team may no longer be looking out for their best interests. And they can go two ways. They can either crumble and fizzle out and just sort of pathetically wither away, or they could go full Rambo, put in some absolutely amazing drives and have this mindset of, I'm not driving for Ferrari or Mercedes, I'm looking out for number one. I'm driving for myself. And in the context of this year, I sense that Sainz is probably more likely to pull this off than Hamilton, mainly because he still has to secure a seat for next season. You know, he still has to sell himself and also prove to the other teams out there that he didn't lose his drive at Ferrari for want of his ability. He might even pull off another win this season just to help his case, but as I mentioned earlier, this is down to if Ferrari even let this happen. If in the latter stages of a race we find a situation where Sainz is first and Leclerc is second, it's very easy for Ferrari to engineer some sort of switch around and also make it look like it's completely not their fault. Meanwhile, Hamilton is already signed and sealed for 2025 onwards, so he will probably just decline and have a massive sulk until he can just crack on at Ferrari. We've heard him in recent races on the team radio, not sounding too optimistic, and I just sense that he's kind of holding back now, especially when you consider where he is compared to George Russell. Also, him signing Ferrari merch now at Grand Prix shows that he is well and truly checked out. Honestly, go online and check this out. I promise you that this has actually happened. And with that, I'm not surprised if Mercedes do swing the majority of their effort behind George. And you know what? I wouldn't blame them either. But at the end of the day, each party is just looking out for their best interests. And that's totally understandable, but in entertainment value alone, it's brilliant to watch. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like the video if you enjoyed. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, I'm Paul, and I'll see you later. Cheers.